Hi everyone, I'm Anamitra, co-founder of A4 Capital and host of this Tree Seed Show. Today I'm super excited to have my friend Shiva Suri join our program. New Lantern is a breakthrough product, AI product in the healthcare space, specifically for radiologists, giving them superpowers to get more studies done per hour than anywhere else. It's essentially a co-pilot for radiologists. It doesn't replace radiologists at all, but it makes them so much more efficient. Using AI to scan and measure tumors and fractures and so on, and also scribing reports so that the radiologists can spend more of their time doing what they're really good at, really understanding in detail what's going on with the human body. It's a breakthrough effort in the healthcare space utilizing AI. And as a recognition of the breakthrough, he raised a $19 million round from Benchmark Capital late last year. So how did it go from an idea during COVID to a super popular Series A? Let's hear from Shiva. Welcome. Thank you for doing this. First off, how did you get your start in tech? And what is your path into San Francisco?
All right, sounds good. Yeah, thank you, Anamitra, for having me. Really appreciate it. I'm Shiva, founder and CEO of New Lantern. And to get into tech, let's see, I studied computer science at UPenn. And my first job actually was a software engineer at Confluent. CEO of Confluent is actually, funny enough, one of our investors right now. I was working as a software engineer for about a year until I met you, started the company, and the rest is history.
Cool. And in those early days, I recall you intersected with wonderful people like Cash from UPenn and a whole host of others, and then you swung by sort of mission control, like the epicenter of sort of a lot of sort of startups that go through that place. What was all of that like before you kind of landed into Confluent?
Yeah, I think even before Confluent, the reason Kashish and I became such good friends, best friends, is like we do align philosophically a lot on how we view tech, and we've always wanted to start companies. That's we didn't have to talk about it during college, but it was just like an underlying notion. You could just tell by hanging out together. He lived in mission control, so I went and lived there for a little bit, and Kashish has been really inspiring to watch. I mean, we're super competitive, so I'm a little jealous, and I got to catch up. But I think San Francisco is definitely the place to be to start a company. Actually, the High Touch guys and I spent a summer in New York and it was a great time, and I really enjoyed it. But just like the energy and the builder culture in San Francisco is a little different and really hard to replicate. It's definitely doable to start a company elsewhere, but I think if you want to maximize the probability of success, San Francisco is the place to be.
That's right. I remember a bunch of you guys went out to New York City. It was a fun time. Was the motivation to check it out, New York for the first time, to see if you could live there, or build a company there, or was it the plan was to always to come back, but to experience New York for a little bit?
I think the pandemic leveled the playing field for which cities have value. So it was 2021. We were like, okay, we might as well get this chance to live in New York, but I don't think any of us had it in our minds long term. I figured that San Francisco would bounce back eventually, and that would be the place to be. So after 3 months, we were like, this is a lot of fun, but we've got to lock in and work on our startup. I mean, not that we weren't working really hard in New York, but it's just a little different in San Francisco. I don't think any of us, and I mostly just wanted to live with the High Touch folks and Kashish, so that was a lot of the impetus to move to New York was to be around them.
And that's quite common, right? A lot of founders who are getting started, they want to be around other founders who may be a step or two ahead of them, because they want to experience the sort of their journey. And plus, your friends. You're always talking about ideas, evaluating folks. What do you think you learned the most, or what do you think you were looking for when you wanted to hang out with that group?
Yeah, well, first off, I want to make it clear. It's not like there's some sort of agenda with hanging out with them. It's just a lot of fun. We're like-minded and we enjoy the same things in life and the same kinds of discussions. So it just makes for a good living situation. And it also makes for good advice for running a startup, definitely. But I wouldn't say that's the agenda in mind. And yeah, I would say like that's the main thing.
Right. And then when you got, like, walk me through the sequence of events. So UPenn, and then you decided to join Confluent right after that, and or was it what are the steps, and how did you decide on Confluent itself?
Yeah, so I had worked on Apache Kafka in my previous internships, and there's this breakout list of the top 100 startups. So Confluent was one of the few roles I actually applied for rather than trying to seek a referral. It was just a cold application. And the company was growing like crazy in that time. I think they doubled. When I signed, it was like 400 people. When I joined, it was like 1,000 people. So it really grew in size. And yeah, I had worked on Kafka. I knew the founders. I was like, I think this startup is going somewhere. So I joined, and then Confluent was actually my initial runway for the company. Before even you, Anamitra, I was burning through my first paycheck from Confluent. And thankfully the company IPO'd during the pandemic, which also gave me some grace and some leeway for running the company. But Confluent was really a great time. It wasn't a push away from Confluent that I wanted when starting the company. It was just, man, I was working in Wisconsin, where my parents are, through the pandemic, and the problem was screaming at me in the face, and so I had to start New Lantern. And we can talk more about that in a second.
Let's talk about it. So Confluent, you were in Confluent. COVID happened. Obviously, went back home. Lockdown. Tell me a little bit more about your parents and that setup, and because that's really critical to the story.
Yeah, and actually, before going into that, I want to tell a little quick funny story at Confluent. So, actually, the Confluent CEO still doesn't know this. Jay is a really good guy, so I'll leak it here on the podcast. But I actually got in trouble for there's an all hands that Confluent has, right? They use Slido, and I wrote a script that essentially top voted whatever question I had to the top to the second most, because I didn't want it to be first, so that it wasn't super obvious that I was running a script. And I kept asking for a shuttle from San Francisco to Mountain View, and that never happened. And then eventually Jay was like, hey, like we're not getting the shuttle, and I gave up. But now he's on the cap table, so really blessed to have him there. But yeah, it really wasn't a pull away from Confluent. It was just working out of the same office as my mother. So my mother is a world-class radiologist. She was actually one of the best radiologists in the country in 2009. She has this award, and that's our family flex. Wow. Essentially, I was working out of the same office as her for a year straight, and I was watching her do her job. And what does a radiologist even do, right? They essentially play Sherlock Holmes with medical images all day. So they look at medical images, and they find diseases. And to do this, they use two pieces of software today. They use a viewer software to mark up the images, and then a reporter software to create a radiology report, which is almost the same as the archaic stuff they were doing 30 years ago, when they would manually hang up film and then dictate on a piece of tape. And essentially, what I noticed from watching my mom work every day was that she was actually so good at looking at an image and finding a disease. And that's what all these AI and radiology companies are. They're like, hey, detect disease X for image Y. So lung nodule for a CT chest, or intracranial hemorrhage for a brain MRI. But radiologists are amazing at that. So why are we starting with that for AI and radiology? What do radiologists struggle with, though? My mom she wasted 8 hours a day on boring non-radiology stuff, specifically the before and after of disease detection. She's great at the disease detection, but setting up her exam and then after she finds a disease, putting her findings into a report, that's where 95% of her time takes. And that's where our AI comes into place to help her work faster.
And then you saw that firsthand too, right? Were they working from home? Did they have to go, because there's a hardware software combo, packs that they have to use to get this all started, and that's where you first started. That was the original idea of New Lantern, right? Yeah.
So my mom's radiology group had her servers in the basement of a casino before moving to us. And then I thought that was an edge case, but then I found out, hold on, radiology IT is a bit backwards, and healthcare just tends to lag. But radiology, like a radiologist's job is to sit behind a computer all day. Radiology can't lag. Radiology needs to be at the forefront of healthcare when it comes to technology. My mom got a little special treatment. She got to work from home, and she had workstations, like computers, set up at home. Particularly because of the pandemic. But she is the president, so she got a little special treatment there. But why should a radiologist have to drive into the clinic to do their job? They should be able to work from anywhere. Teleradiology is booming right now because more and more people are getting behind that premise, but the IT infrastructure today isn't there yet, and that's where New Lantern can come in to, level the playing field for radiology, so that radiologists from California can read for cases in Wisconsin and so on.
Right. Like going back to the sort of inception and the starting point for the company, was this the very first idea you had, and it was inspired because of COVID, because of going back home experience with your mom, or did you ever go through an idea maze to figure out what you wanted to work on?
Yeah, oh man, there were a lot of pivots. So it was always within the realm of radiology, because I saw this problem and I knew a startup is going to solve this problem. But how to solve it there were a lot of different ways. First, I was just another plugin. This is before I even pitched you. I wanted to plug into your PACS system. So PACS is just the software that a radiologist uses to look at the images. Plug in and essentially try to detect a lung nodule for a radiologist and surface that to the radiologist. Man, there's so many false positives with these lung nodule detection algorithms, and across the board, there's so many of these companies now that's their whole product. First off, radiologist doesn't want to buy another piece of software when their existing pieces of software aren't great. And second off, like the tech isn't there yet. It's not good enough. So I couldn't even sell that to my mom's group, which is a pretty telltale sign, man, you need to pivot. So I pivoted into just the viewer software, and that wasn't enough of a value prop, because without having the value that, hey, this is the one piece of software you need assigned to do your job, which means that we need to get rid of their legacy reporter as well, it just wasn't enough. Then we tried being some sort of plugin widget. ChatGPT came out. We're like, let's be a plugin widget that automates a quarter of the report. And finally, we were getting some traction with that. Radiologists were like, hold on, I can press Control and space together, and you automate a quarter of my radiology report. That's pretty cool. They haven't really seen too much of that in the industry, and especially one that gets to learn your profile better and better. Because they had seen some of those, AI to automate the report, but it didn't really personalize as much as ours. But that was a distraction. That was actually a false positive, because we were getting traction on that. But one, I mean, the pricing model was per seat, and the number of radiologists is unfortunately going down every year. And it just didn't feel like that big of a business, if I'm going to be completely honest. And what were all our customers asking when we're having that plugin to automate part of that report? They were like, hey, Shiva, this is awesome. Can you automate this other section of the report too? And we'd be like, I mean, we could, but we would have to build the viewer to understand your interactions with it to automate the report. So then we were like, okay, you know what? Let's just fight the war on all the fronts and just build radiology software how it was meant to be from the start, not these fragmented pieces and an all-in-one radiology solution. And that's what we finally landed on. And I think we're experiencing the early innings of product market fit there.
That's great. Yeah, just going back to, again, like the starting point. Did you ever consider a co-founder? Because you're a solo founder. There are pros and cons of it. You can decide whatever you want. You don't have to get buy-in. At the same time, you bear all the stress and all the burden. In general, would you do the same thing again, or what would you advise people who are either considering solo or looking for co-founders?
I definitely recommend having a co-founder. There are a lot of decisions that I'm like, hey, this would be nice to just riff with a co-founder on. And I did try to look for a co-founder quite a bit, especially through my network from Penn. And there were some solid prospects. It never worked out, as you know, never worked out. But I was just too hungry. This problem was staring at me in the face. and I just wanted to do more than, I just wanted to do more, and I wanted to start a company. So I couldn't help it. And I definitely recommend everyone, hey, look for a co-founder. Like, yeah, I know that the number one reason companies don't work out is often a co-founder dispute. Find a really good co-founder. And I recommend that. Some of the hardships, aren't worth being a solo founder, if I'm being completely honest. But it doesn't matter. I also have to, in parallel, have the mentality that it just doesn't matter. We need to get the job done no matter what. And I have that dog in me to do that. So
that's right.
So that's like that's the bottom line. And ever since, like, I've been really fortunate to have a really good team around me. So a lot of the things that a co-founder would help you with are my team helps out a lot, and kudos to them. And it's probably like maybe not 100% of a co-founder, but lean on someone for advice here on the technical stuff or advice on how to close this deal and so on. So my team is really good. Hired one of my best friends from Penn as the first hire, and he's really leaned into helping me out a lot.
Yeah, I remember some of the folks that you were talking to at the time were the credentials were excellent. Were very much like you, but it always felt like they lacked conviction, or they didn't really want to jump in all in, and they were somewhat risk averse. You kind of have to be risk seeking, significantly risk seeking. It's either the idea or the person you are, you're going to make it work. But it never felt that although the folks were technically very strong and very entrepreneurial, they weren't quite in that headspace as you were.
Yeah, I think one of the red flags sometimes is like when they're like, oh, if you get this, I'll join. If you do this, I'll join. Right. If you get Y Combinator, or if you get a seed funding or whatever, like your co-founder has to have equal risk appetite to you. Otherwise, that's a relationship that is going to breed conflict.
That's right. There's an imbalance.
And it can't just be a relationship that waits until there's some sort of indicator of success.
That's right.
Because frankly, even when you invested, Anamitra, and thank you for investing, but even when you invested, we weren't there yet. We had a long ways to go, as you saw. But yeah, and I would have needed a co-founder that would stick through the hard parts too. And thankfully, I have a team that stuck through. We haven't had like a single employee quit, by the way, which is kind of amazing.
And it's an amazing team. Amazing. They come from amazing backgrounds, and they've done quite a lot. They're building products so fast and delighting customers. I remember it took some time between when you first started and the breakthrough you had sort of early last year, late 2023, and a significant portion of the breakthrough was sort of developments on the AI side, right? That was happening outside of the company. Just talk through a little bit. It felt like you went through the plateau of gloom until you kind of broke out again. What was that period like, where you had, I think you mentioned, you had some interest, there was some promise, but you didn't feel there was enough of a business there in and of itself, and the timing worked out really well when it did.
Yeah, I think a lot of running a startup is being extremely resilient and being alive to get lucky. So surviving, for us, what that meant was surviving until large language models became this amazing thing. And even in 2021, if I pitched you on automating a radiology report, I could pitch you on it. But could I build it? It would probably be a lot harder than it is today. And yeah, that's what happened with us. We got really fortunate that we have these really amazing models, and we already have this niche expertise in radiology. So we have the know-how on how to apply LLMs to actually help a radiologist work faster. And it's not even just automating a radiology report. It's like, hey, how do I get to the right image faster and find that needle in a haystack? You get a CT scan that's 1,000 images, but maybe only a few of those are clinically relevant, and help them get to those important images so they get to spend their time on what matters the most.
Right.
But yeah, and I think there were tough times, and even when LLMs came out, though, finding the right application required some pivoting. So we built that plugin for a while that radiologists could press a hotkey and automate part of the radiology report. And then we're like, hold on, like we're getting traction, but is this market really all that big? And hey, we've already built all this. We have all this code for a viewer. Like, should we be using it? And can we do more with it? And we're like, yeah, it's actually not a waste. It's actually the most valuable to have this all-in-one suite. Why was 25 years ago, radiologists got scammed. 25, 30 years ago, radiologists got scammed saying that, hey, I need to buy a PACS software to look at the images. I need to buy a reporter software that has a terrible speech to text mic, which was good at the time. And I also need to buy my servers. Maybe they didn't get scammed. Maybe that was just the case of 30 years ago. But now combining that all in one and then using AI to actually help them at each step of the workflow, which is looking at the images and creating reports, that just wasn't possible a few years ago, and it is possible now.
Right. So it's like the IT infrastructure and utilizing AI. The combination of these two things really makes New Lantern different, and that's what's possible today. It wasn't possible before. So maybe describe the product as it stands today. Like what does it do? Or maybe what you can do is like walk folks through a regular day in a radiologist's life, and then where your product intersects with their life and how it makes it better.
Regular day in a radiologist's life is very similar to the seating arrangement we have right now. It's you sit behind your computer all day, very minimal patient interaction, and you're just staring at your computer and looking at medical images and creating radiology reports. So essentially, cases will come in. You have a list of cases. It's called a work list. You have a list of cases, almost like an email inbox. And there are more important cases, there are stat cases, and you pick the cases off the list. Each case actually pays a different amount. There's a relative value unit published by the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services on the value of it. So there's a huge gamification of the cases and there's a huge problem in radiology of cherry picking the cases. But anyways, that's another story. So you pick a case, then you open the viewer and you look at the images, you look at the past images, you read the past reports, and then you find the disease, or hopefully no disease, make any markings on it, measurements. Often you find a lung nodule or some sort of disease, then you have to make markings and measurements on all the past lung nodules as well to describe the disease evolution. And then after that, after finding the needle in a haystack and marking it up, you spend about half your time, probably more, creating a radiology report. And radiologists use speech to text today. Most of them use Dragon to create that radiology report. And then you go to your next case and so on. So work list, viewer, reporter, work list, viewer, reporter, neck turn, 150 times a day. And essentially, the goal of the company as of today is to eliminate the work list and reporter from the radiologist time. Your time is spent all at looking at images. We pick the next case for you. We automate the creation of the report for you. Just look at the images and do what's fun, which is using your medical school knowledge to find diseases or hopefully find that patients are healthy.
That's great. And then and the reason this is really attractive to radiologists is because I guess economically they're incentivized to get as many studies done per hour as they can. So the more studies they can do, the better it is for them, the better it is for whoever's the hospital or the radiologist group, right? So economically, there's an incentive to use your tech, the AI technology, to get more studies done.
Yeah, exactly. So the two metrics we need from New Lantern: the time per study, time per examination that it takes for a radiologist to look at it needs to go down. The number of cases, or the number of relative value units, is the radiology metric, that a single radiologist can complete in a given shift needs to go up. And we are proving that. And we want that to essentially multiply. Of course, they need to pick up more and more contracts, and we are enabling our customers to do that. Our first customer we signed up is about to 8x in volume. And not only that, there's actually a tailwind. So even without New Lantern, even if they need a system that can help them get through more cases a day, because medical imaging volume is on the rise. It's increasing 10% every year. So, and why is that? That's because actually my dad is a biomedical engineer, builds scanners, builds CT and MRI scanners. And they've gotten more efficient. It used to take an hour to get a scan. Now it's like 45 minutes, half an hour. And not just that, more so the culture is changing. I want my grandmas to go get some whole body MRIs, make sure they're healthy, do a cancer screening, all these sorts of things. The culture is changing, and you have more scans coming in every year, but you have fewer radiologists. So a single radiologist has to read more cases a day to keep up.
Got it. And then finding radiologists sort of to pitch the idea to, it's not like a B2B SaaS product where you can sell to a bunch of your friends who are other startups. These are different people. I know you had some advantage with your mom's practice, but you had to expand beyond that. Where, like from a go-to-market or customer acquisition perspective, I guess there are two broad groups. One is like large hospitals, and the other is private practices. You began with private practices. Just talk us through like why you picked that, and once you did, how did you go and find people to talk to and to sell your product?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We can bifurcate the market into hospitals and private practices. And the reason to target private practices for any startup is because the user and the buyer are the same entity at a private practice. It's a radiologist, not administration, which can take a bit longer. And the value of the product, the buyer feels when they're going through the sales cycle. And as far as like getting in front of them, there are a lot of interesting ways that we've explored. Some like, I actually think, it's not a B2B SaaS product, but how do we differentiate ourselves? Well, we're like a website. You just log in and do your job. We can show them some demo cases, and no other vendor, since they're all on-premise, can really do that, where you can just go to a website and all of a sudden do your radiology job supercharged by AI. No one else can really say that they can do that. And then on top of that, I mean, there are a bunch of ways. Honestly, text message has worked quite well. Just being best buddies with a bunch of radiologists. I mean, this is what I enjoy doing in my free time anyways. My job, starting 5 years ago, when I was working at the same office as my mother, is, hey, I'm this engineer. I need to become a radiologist. And I need to be a hybrid of engineer and radiologist in one person so that I can synthesize these ideas and build a good product. And so this is what I enjoy doing. Even if it's not to close a customer, I just like talking to radiologists. And I think that authenticity does carry in terms of closing deals as well. It just happens to have that positive externality.
Can you read x-rays and scans now, do you think, yourself? I'm half joking.
Actually, funny enough, I broke my thumb in third grade, and my mom and I were playing. I was playing basketball. So someone missed the backboard quite a bit and hit my thumb. And I went to go get an x-ray with my mom on a Friday, and we saw this film. It was still on film back then. And my mom was like, "Oh, your thumb's fine." And I was like, No, Mama, I think that spot right there is broken." And then she's like, no, you're fine. I'm a radiologist. Then Monday, the radiologist who's actually reading, because my mom wasn't actually reading, came back, and it was broken exactly where I pointed it out. From that day, my mom would not give up on me becoming a radiologist.
Wow.
I thought about it, but I wanted to write code. I actually wanted to be a physics major first. But yeah, I mean, I think I can. I don't want to over glorify myself and say I'm not an MD, man. But I could do something.
You're good for a second opinion. Totally. I will come to you. In the radiology space, a lot of folks say AI is going to replace radiologists. You don't need doctors anymore. You don't need radiologists anymore. Just that the machine will do it. What's your point of view on that?
Well, first off, where's the problem today? The problem isn't actually radiologists interpreting images. The problem is what they do outside the interpretation that we need help automating away. And that's why we say we built the first AI radiology resident. So it's not doing 100% of what a radiologist does. It's helping the radiologist get through all the boring work, what they might assign to a resident, that then they can focus on the fun stuff of looking at the images and finding diseases. Now, one day, will we have a version of an AI radiologist? What is an AI radiologist, first of all? An AI radiologist is AI that can look at an image and automatically create a report for you that goes back to the patient. And I think to get that there, we're quite a bit of ways. No vendor has really gotten there yet, and that's because they're starting with AI radiologist and starting with these really limited data sets to create models that just lead to a bunch of false positives and not actually radiologists working faster. And also for AI to replace a radiologist, it's got to be way better than a radiologist. It's like a self-driving car. If it's driving as good as a human, no one's going to be happy. It's got to be better than a human.
Right. Can you describe your sort of first customer, first external, first customer with the product? How do you know you had them? How did you know that they'll become a customer? And how long did it take from maybe initially talking to them to finally closing them?
Yeah, like let's talk outside my mom's group because that's no fun. So like after that, I would say like the sales cycle was actually we found them on Reddit, and took maybe a few months, like 3 months. And how did we know we had them? Well, we didn't have a reporter when we started talking to them, and we built a reporter over the course of talking with them, and that's when they essentially validated that, hey, this is something radiologists want. And then we started closing more deals after that. We didn't know we had them until we built the product for them. There is a common notion, and definitely sell before you build, and that's what we were doing, and that's how we decided what to build. But eventually we just had to go and do it. And right. they gave us a 2-week deadline, and no vendor in radiology can ship something like that with a 2-week deadline, but we did.
Right. And a reporter is like the AI summarization of the findings in the report, something that the radiologist dictates or types up and that the actual doctor reads, which is the summary of what does the scan say?
Yeah, a report, it typically has 3 sections. A radiology report has 3 sections. The top section is a bunch of metadata about the patient and the study. Why is the patient coming in? The second section is the finding section, and that's where the radiologist brain work and all the markups of the imaging and transferring that over. And the final section is called an impression, and that's where a radiologist has to synthesize and use their med school knowledge to make a recommendation. Often they have to make these Google searches or Radiopedia searches to find that information, or if it's a specific type of exam, they have to go to a certain websites like tyradscalculator.com to get some sort of scoring algorithm to guide their recommendation. And that's where AI really, really helps them work faster.
Right. And these private practices typically spend millions on various parts of the PACS and the viewer and the reader, etc. How do you think about pricing the product?
Yeah, so as far as pricing goes, we do price per study, right? Per examination. And because we have that tailwind of, hey, we want you to read more cases, and we want to grow with you, and we want to incentivize that, and that way it starts off well, and it'll always be advantageous, especially because they're consolidating a bunch of contracts into New Lantern, right? They're getting rid of their existing PACS, they're getting rid of their existing reporter, they're getting rid of all these servers. We've helped our customers sell their servers onto marketplaces just to reduce the friction of onboarding onto us.
Got it.
Sorry, what was your question? I kind of missed
pricing is sort of like a normal startup that would sell. They're trying to target 50K and they're 100K, and they're super lucky they get to like 250K or something with 3, 4, 5 people in the company. But in the healthcare space, the contracts are much larger. Like incumbents charge millions of dollars.
Yeah, so even if we can just undercut that, in the early days, we still have these large contracts, but they're not as horrendous as these other vendors. And also these other vendors in healthcare today, they nickel and dime every radiology practice. So just the promise that, hey, we're not gonna give you a statement of work for this random meeting, like little things like that really go a long way, just building customer trust when you're a startup. And so like every one of my customers, They all have my phone number. They call me at any time in the day. Like these little things matter right now. And they will always matter, frankly.
That's right. And you mentioned the customer went up, the revenue went up 8x. Did I hear that right?
It's right now. It's going up 8x.
Now.
We're deploying next week.
And so what's the expand? So it's land and expand, right? So you basically take on more and more studies, and in more and more maybe locations, and more radiologists end up using it. You start somewhere and then you expand, both the number of people using it and the number of studies your product does.
Exactly. They need to hire more radiologists, and each radiologist also needs to become more efficient as we ship more features on New Lantern. And it's really cool. You can see like a graph in the app of your personal growth and the personal reimbursements, and you just see that line going up and up. And we want to reduce the friction to deploy, right? With each one of our customers, and we just handle that stuff really efficiently. We essentially tell our customers like, hey, we are your IT administration. Right. We will handle this stuff for you.
Right. You mentioned throughout this conversation several sort of points of differentiation on the product and the way you sell, the way you service customers afterwards. It still appears to be a crowded space. There appears to be a lot of AI companies or tech companies wanting to become AI companies targeting radiology. It's sometimes confusing from the person looking at it from the outside. How would you describe your sort of what New Lantern's uniquely differentiated in?
So let's take 100% of a radiologist job, right? 95% of it is the before and after of disease detection, right? Setting up your exam to find those important images and hang the images in the right ways because you have different stacks of images. And then the after is creating a radiology report. The intermediate is looking at the images and finding a disease. 99% of startups in radiology are focused on that middle part because that's the exciting software engineering, computer science problem. We're focused on the 95%.
That makes sense.
We will also focus on the 5% in our roadmap.
Got it.
But it makes no sense to start that way. And I started that way. I mean, it makes a lot of sense if you major in computer science and you just want to put your thoughts into a radiologist job, but that's not the problem we need to solve.
Got it. In starting this company, you've obviously had to fundraise to sustain the idea. You've raised from various people. Can you talk us through the fundraising journey? And I want to get to the most recent one, of course, but generally, what has been your sort of learning from fundraising, and what advice would you give to folks who are fundraising in general for their companies?
Yeah, so thank you for being the first check. I think part of fundraising is definitely not needing to raise and not wanting to raise. I think investors definitely gravitate towards that. I think I told you that I want, and you got to believe it too. You can't just like say it. You got to actually be somewhat delusional and believe it. I remember when I was talking to you, Anamitra, I was like, hey, I want to raise a family and friends round because, keep the ownership in the family and the friends. And then that's when you came after me. And I do think there's like some like, hey, I'm gonna work with what we got rather than I need to go out and raise. Then I guess after that, the most recent raise was also fairly quick. I think it took 2 weeks end to end of fundraising. Granted, I was working from 7 a.m. to 3 a.m. for 2 weeks straight, including Saturday, Sunday. So that was fun. It actually was a lot of fun. But I think one slightly different approach I have to fundraising, and I think it's somewhat personal. It's also like optimize to your strengths. My strength was just having a conversation and explaining the origin story and not presenting a slide deck. I realized the first time I presented a slide deck since high school was the benchmark partnership meeting. So, which is fine. I had to present a slide deck there.
Yeah. That's an incredible story to be able to raise from a hallowed fund like Benchmark, 19 million at that. Walk us back to that process. What was that experience like pitching to them, comparing them to other people you were talking to roughly at the same time? You don't have, if you want to share names, that's fine, but you don't have to. But just contrasting them versus others. What was that experience like?
Yeah, so it was fast. It was definitely fast. I mean, the whole fundraise was pretty fast. I think what really drew me to Benchmark, I mean, one, I had a positive bias going in because Eric actually had invested in Confluent, my previous company, and I had heard great things about him. I had known him since, I mean, part of the reason I joined Confluent was because they had incredible investors, Sequoia and Benchmark. That was literally part of the reason I joined. So obviously I went in with a positive bias. But I think what sold me through the process was the fact that it's like an equal partnership and it's like 5 partners, no BS. That really stuck, and it's carried through even after. Like, I think all the partners have equal skin in the game to help portfolio companies of Benchmark, whether it's introducing a new customer or being a sounding board. And yeah, I mean, I've had a pretty incredible relationship with them ever since.
I remember that when you were talking to some other funds, not funds where because not many Series A funds have an understanding of radiology or AI or differentiation. Appears to be crowded. Many of them were interested, but not that interested, and I saw many of them get super interested post Benchmark. So post Benchmark, what has been your experience with investors?
Well, I will say that 2 weeks of fundraising, though, I think like everyone was interested. Not trying to to my own horn or anything, but that fundraising process was pretty smooth. And I think a lot of it is due to, I mean, one, our traction as of late, and two, the painting of the story as this, AI radiology resident, rather than everyone else going after AI radiologists to start. We believe that this is the right starting point, and I think it makes a lot of sense after going through the story of watching my mom work, right?
Right.
And I mean, after the raise, you can imagine, but I think it's very important to be focused on growth of the company, rather than fundraising at the moment. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't hurt having an incredible investor on our board.
That's right. Well, for a Series A, investors look for a number of things. They look for, obviously, a team, founder, market, traction, storytelling. Your traction was good. It was growing much faster than we'd seen in the past. Was there anything specific that kind of stood out that folks really gravitated towards? That you felt like that part was really working? Many founders, when they start their sort of fundraising journey, even if it's a week or two, they tweak a lot. They tweak the story, they tweak the message, they tweak what they promote, what they don't promote to investors. What was it? Do you think that really clicked for you? That it took only 2 weeks.
I think just dialing in and being extremely authentic during the process of like. That really helped, rather than viewing it as like, hey, I'm selling you and pitching you each time. Just strike a conversation and be authentic about the problem you're solving, and how much you care about it, and that'll bleed through, and get results. It was funny, like my first meeting with Benchmark, at the end, the partner was like, all right, let's go get lunch the next day, go bring your co-founders. And then I was like, oh, by the way, I don't have one. And I think that was actually a plus, because it was like, wow, like, okay, like this guy's never going to give up. And it's true. I don't give up. But yeah, I mean, I think frankly, like having good traction helps a lot for running a fundraise, and it's that was just being real with them.
Makes sense. And now that that's sort of behind you, you have this capital base now, the product is growing, you have customers. What's your ambition now? Where is New Lantern going in the next few years or so, next 5 years? What is your where do you see this going longer term?
I mean, we need to put our software in every radiologist's hands to supercharge them. I think the first version of an AI radiologist is like the boring work. No radiologist likes reading chest x-rays because you don't get a great reimbursement for them. Right. And there's certain scans that I think like AI can definitely help get a lift. It's not like Waymo and Uber, where Waymo is probably taking Uber drivers' jobs. I know they're doing some sort of partnership now. But in radiology, there are not enough cars on the road there are not enough radiologists in America or the world to sustain the imaging growth. So we can definitely help give a lift to radiologists and yeah, put this in every radiologist's hands. As far as the company, yeah, let's make it big. Let's go public.
That's great. Do you think so far the product has been really well received because the buyer and the user is the same persona, the radiologist. But as you move from private practices to hospitals, the CFOs get involved, other folks get involved, folks whose motivations and incentives are different from the radiologist, the quality of the product itself. How do you think about that sort of segment?
So the nice thing is it'll be very natural. It's already coming up, and we just have to show them that all our customers make more money after using us than before. That's a very strong sell. No hospital CFO or CEO is going to be like, going to turn down an opportunity to pick up more case volume and make more money for their organization. It's just bad leadership. So that'll be part of the convincing there. But right now, I think our strongest value prop is definitely going straight to the radiologist and just letting them play with the magic themselves.
Yeah, lower cost, higher revenue is a pretty compelling value prop, no matter what the product and industry. A final question for you. A lot of founders, especially folks who are coming out of really interesting startups or maybe even out of school, are playing with AI a lot. What advice would you give to engineers who are trying to build an AI?
Use Cursor. That's number one. I was up at 2 a.m. with one of my star engineers yesterday. I was like, let's just highlight Ask Cursor, and Cursor got it. Use Cursor. Building prototypes has never been easier. So I think, but that also means the bar to go out and put this in front of customers or raise is a bit higher. But that's great. Just use V0, use Cursor. All these things really help for at least prototyping. And I think as far as like founders in AI, I think the number one advice for a founder is like not really relative to space, but just like be resilient, don't give up, be moldable, listen to your customers or your prospective customers and make changes accordingly.
Right. You had the benefit, obviously, of finding a really solid idea because that's your lived experience. For other folks, oftentimes they try to solve ideas that they see around them. Any advice on how to navigate ideas? How to go through ideas? Is it like you pick something, work on it for a week? If you like it after a week, great, keep going, or pivot through ideas?
Yeah, one more than just iterating. Sometimes it's just speed, just throwing a bunch of stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks, because it can be hard to predict sometime. But obviously you do need to use your learnings, but which are super specific to the problem you're trying to solve. If there was one MO, it'd be a lot easier to start a company. I also think, this is just about this is answering a slightly different question about advice to founders in general. I have somewhat of a hot take there. I think if a founder needs advice to start a company, maybe don't start a company. If you just can't, if you feel like you can't breathe without starting a company, those are the people that should start companies.
That's great. That's great parting advice. Shiva, wonderful conversation. Thank you so much for taking the time. I know you have a business to attend to, and we're so delighted to have you. Can't wait for everyone to listen to what you had to say. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Anamitra. Yeah, wish me luck on this demo. See you
for
later.
sure. Good luck.